Good evening, campers, it's me, Kira. This is a list of Russian classics I think you should read to start your journey into Russian literature. This is in no means a list of the best Russian classics. It's also not a list that contains Leo Tolstoy because we have things to do in life. This is a list for if you've never touched a Russian classic or would like to have an easy way in and have a really enjoyable time. This is the list for you. Also, the majority of these books are very small because we know the Russian classics, sometimes they can get a bit big and intimidating. Before I rattle off my 5, please let me know what books would you recommend for people getting into Russian literature. If you're looking for a proper Russian classic, like meat and potatoes, bread and butter, Russian classic to kickstart you off, then you have to go with Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Crime and Punishment was not the first Russian book that I read, neither was it the first Dostoevsky that I read. I was a bit wary about how many people enjoyed it, but I have to say, Crime and Punishment is readable, it is enjoyable, it deserves all of the praise that it has ever received. Seeing Raskolnikov do a crime and then deal with the punishment, very literal, I know. This does extrapolate over to War and Peace, where yes, there is war, and yes, there is peace. I've recommended Crime and Punishment to people who are readers and people who are not readers, and I've not had one person come back and gone, well, that was a waste of my time. Dostoevsky readers embed you into that book, and you, like Raskolnikov, are going to wonder what should or what could be done. Raskolnikov at the beginning gives this idea that he is precise, that he is calculated, that he has thought everything through at all of those steps. You, like him, are going to realise that life somehow gets in the way and makes everything way more complicated. Crime and Punishment, again, it deserves all the praise. It's the perfect Russian book to start off with. I put this one first because if you're going to prioritise anything, this is the one that you should prioritise. I am going to talk about 4 others that I absolutely love, but don't feel as though they get as much love compared to like the big booming names of Russian literature. Again, if you're going to choose one, Crime and Punishment is that book for you. If Dostoevsky's Russian realism does scare you off, you might want to consider some genre fiction, something that you're familiar with, something you're going to know the patter. Additionally, if it's influenced some works that you're aware of, even if you've not read them, then surely that's going to be a good option for you. As such, I would recommend you look no further than Yevgeny Zamyatin's science fiction dystopian We doesn't get old for me, but it translates to We was a direct influence on Orwell's 1984, and the parallels are absolutely stark. Even if you haven't read 1984, you know 1984. You know that story way more than you think. Another reason I would recommend We is that there is the meme that Russian literature has a lot of names. It has a lot of patronyms that you have to get used to, and everyone is pretty much called Ivan. But within Zamyatin's dystopian, everyone is given letters and numbers. There are no Ivans in sight. Within this dystopia, due to the need of bread, the Earth's population has dramatically decreased. One of the engineers who is working on the Starship Integral is going to be embroiled with a party of people who want to usurp the current regime. Again, if you know 1984, you might know where this is going to go, but Zamyatin's going to do some very interesting thing with people that you're not going to expect, which makes this like utterly wonderful to read. The next Russian classic that I think you should read is actually the most contemporary on our list. This novella came out in 1992, and we only got an English translation in 2005, and that is the author, is actually one of the authors that I think should win a Nobel Prize for Literature. That is Lyudmila Ulitskaya's Sonechka. I'm aware that people aren't aware of Ulitskaya's debut, Sonechka, but in the loosest way, think of it like Jane Eyre. Sonechka is a book lover. She is absolutely enthralled. She's an avid librarian, but a love interest comes along and changes her life. Sonechka, within her marriage to Robert Viktorovich, really puts her duties as a wife above everything else, and a moment where that is severed, she finds her love again for books once more. But like all good domestic dramas, there is a younger generation who challenge or sometimes go along with the tradition of what has come before, Tanya and Yasia definitely do provide that complexity that Ulitskaya is able to dismantle the current traditions. If you do decide to pick up Sonechka, please know that if you look at Ulitskaya's other works, they get very bleak and very melancholic very quickly. We need to brighten the mood. Indeed, stereotypically, Russian literature is not very funny. They don't seem to garner chuckles from people. Apart from Ivan Goncharov's second novel, Oblomov. There's a thesis somewhere, and if it doesn't exist, I will write it. Oblomov was the inspiration for Bruno Mars's The Lazy Song. Ilya Ilyich Oblomov, let's be honest, that is fantastic to say. Ilya Oblomov. He's lazy. He doesn't really get out of bed. Yes, this is the Russian classic equivalent as well to Moshfegh's My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And if you enjoyed that, you will undoubtedly enjoy Oblomov, not because it's a better novel, but it is actually hilarious. Famously, Oblomov takes a really long time to leave his bed and walks over to a chair, and even that, it appears, is way too hard for him to do. Oblomov is the epitome of Russian bourgeoisie. He has never had to work. He hasn't actually needed to go to school because his parents pulled him out in case he was working too hard. He's never done any household chores and feels as though he is plagued with Oblomovitis, which makes him the way that he is. I mean, Oblomov is so lazy he can't even, resolve the plot. He gets his friend Stoltz to come in and rectify all the problems that he brings upon himself. I do wish more people picked up Goncharov's work. He's outstanding in his field. Then finally, we have another modern classic. If you think of Russian comedy, most people think of the playwright and author Mikhail Bulgakov, and you probably know the book that I'm going to recommend now. And you'd be wrong, I'm not going to recommend you The Master and Margarita. Instead, I think Bulgakov's finest work is his Slim Heart of a Dog. Where Oblomov is a satire on the Russian bourgeois, The Heart of a Dog is a satire on Bolshevism. And within this side-splitting, absurd tale, we're going to follow a dog called Sharik. This dog is down on his luck. Not only is a stray, but the first encounter we have of Sharik, he is scalded by boiling water. But he finds a new home with Dr. Preobrazhensky. He's loved and looked after for, which ultimately leads to him with a homeless man's testicles being surgically attached to him. I mean, if a story were a dog with stapled on testicles who runs amok around Russia and ultimately gets embroiled with the Cheka, who was the Russian Secret Service at the time, I mean, if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. I can't think of a better book to sign off this list. They are your 5 Russian classics. Are there any that you would recommend? Please do let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.